The so-called mainstream media, television and newspapers have been in overdrive since the UK election results were announced in the early hours of June the 9th. Headlines have screamed about the fantastic victory of the Conservative and Unionist Party in Scotland and how the SNP, particularly leader Nicola Sturgeon, was humiliated by massive losses of SNP MPs. Abandoning any pretence of impartiality, even broadcasters have been telling Nicola Sturgeon that in the Ref2, a second referendum on Scotland's independence must now be off the table. So let's have a look at the results the British Unionist media and political parties are using as the basis of their ecstatic claims of victory and of humiliation for the SNP. Let's look at whether or not the case for an independent Scotland has been damaged by the results of the UK election on June the 8th. The SNP won 35 seats in the election. The Conservatives won 13 seats. That's Pro-Independence Party 35, Pro-British Union Party 13. Independence wins, so no Tory victory, no humiliation for the SNP or Nicola Sturgeon. In fact, the SNP and Nicola Sturgeon are the victors and should be celebrating. Independence is still firmly on the table. Of course, it wasn't just the Tories who contested the election for the British Unionist side. There was also a rejuvenated Labour Party under Jeremy Corbyn. So let's bring in the Labour Party. The SNP won 35 seats in the election, the Tories won 13 and Labour won 7, so 20 in total. That's Pro-Independence Party, 35 seats, Pro-British Union Parties, 20 seats. Independence still wins. But the Liberal Democrats also contested the election on the British Unionist side. Okay, so let's bring in the Liberal Democrats. The SNP won 35 seats in the election, the Tories won 13, Labour 7, and the Liberal Democrats took 4 seats. That's Pro-Independence 35, Pro-British Union 24. Independence still wins. In fact, the final result of the 2017 UK election was a clear victory for the independence supporting SNP over the British Union supporting parties. It's a staggering misrepresentation of reality for the so-called mainstream media to claim any sort of success for the Tory party or British Unionist parties combined in Scotland. The winners, the victors, by a clear margin were the SNP. That's the SNP with independence as its core policy. Therefore, independence remains very firmly on the table. Big Brother in George Orwell's dystopian novel 1984 would be proud of the doublespeak employed by the British media, including so-called Scottish newspapers and broadcasters. War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength, the SNP victory is Tory victory, independence victory is British Unionist victory. Of course, 2017 UK election wasn't the first SNP victory and British Unionist defeat. The SNP won the 2015 UK election too. Then the following year the SNP won the Scottish Parliament election. Both elections represented further victories for supporters of independence over supporters of the British Union in Scotland. Following the 2016 Scottish Parliament victory, the SNP government tabled a motion which argued that the Parliament acknowledges the sovereign right of the Scottish people to determine the form of government best suited to their needs, and ensures that the Scottish Parliament can legislate for a referendum to be held that will give the people of Scotland a choice over the future direction and governance of their country. The Scottish Government brought forward this motion because there had been a material change in the way Scotland was governed since the independence referendum of 2014. In a referendum on the UK's membership of the European Union, a majority of Scots voted to remain, while a majority across the UK, mainly in England, voted to leave, so Scotland will be dragged out of the European Union against the will of the majority of Scots. The motion tabled by the Scottish Government was passed by 69 votes to 59. Pro-independence parties triumphed yet again over pro-British Unionist parties. The motion seeks to give Scots the right to have a say on whether or not they want Scotland to be dragged out of the European Union or to re-establish Scotland as an independent nation and negotiate a new arrangement with the EU. That is what a second independence referendum is all about. What British Unionists want taken off the table is simply the option that allows Scots the right to have their say on the future of their country. So, contrary to the blaring headlines in the British Unionist media, the outcome of the 2017 UK election was actually the completion of a pro-independence triple lock. The pro-independence SNP won the Scottish Parliament election in 2016. The Scottish Parliament backed the motion from pro-independence parties that argues for the people of Scotland to be allowed a say over the future of our own country once the outcome of Brexit negotiations are known. And the pro-independence SNP won the 2017 UK election. Add to that triple lock the pro-independence victory in the 2015 UK election and the 2017 Scottish local government election, and there can be no doubt whatsoever that there exists a democratic mandate for Scots to be allowed a new independence referendum. Now, this is where things become potentially dangerous. For despite the pro-independence SNP winning democratic victories in 2015, 2016 and twice in 2017, and despite the Scottish Parliament democratically passing a motion backing the right of Scots to have their say in a new independence referendum, British Unionist political parties and media argue that is not enough. If winning democratically held elections and passing motions in a democratic parliament do not give the SNP the right to deliver a new referendum for the people of Scotland, then what does? If British Unionists seek to deny to the people of Scotland the right to hold a new referendum on the future of our country, and they certainly do, then they are saying that there is no democratic way for Scots to express their opinion. If the British Unionists succeed in removing democracy from the table, then what means is left to the people of Scotland? Do the British Unionists want riots? Do they want revolution? Serial election losers like Ruth Davidson, Kezia Dugdale and Willie Rennie should be careful what they wish for. British Union supporting newspaper editors, journalists and headline writers should be wary of what their anti-democracy reporting could drive people towards. The pro-independence movement is entirely democratic, entirely peaceful. Pro-independence parties have democratically won the right to hold a new independence referendum. Through democratic means, the people of Scotland have earned the right to have their say on the future of their own country. British Unionist political parties and the British Unionist media may ignore the facts and distort reality, and they may seek to deny us our democratic rights, but democracy and independence will win the day. Scotland will be a normal, independent nation.